Hello, my beautiful people. It's your girl, Salty Candy. Welcome back to Salty Candy's podcast. These are my miles to heal. And I'm pretty sure that a lot of you guys are waiting for me to talk about my Dominican mom and her passing. And trust me, that conversation is coming, but not right now. Right now, my heart isn't ready to open that door yet. I need a little bit of time. So instead, today, I want to talk about something else that shaped me, broke me, rebuilt me, taught me. It really taught me how strong a woman can really be. Today, I want to talk about being a mother of an autistic kid. And I'm not talking about the cute version you see online, not the inspirational quotes only, but the real, the raw, emotional side, the part nobody prepares you for. If you're listening to this and you are a mother, if you're raising a child with autism, if you're exhausted, confused, scared, or feeling alone, this episode is for you. Real stories, raw feelings, and miles of truth. This is Salty Candy, and you're riding with me. Before we continue, I want to give you a quick trigger warning. In this episode, I will talk about mental health struggles, misdiagnoses, self-harm behavior during crisis, and hospitalizations. I also be sharing the deep stress and guilt that comes with parenting. Please take care of yourself while listening. Pause if you need to and come back when you're ready. Nobody tells you how hard it is just to get a diagnosis. Not the appointments, not the waiting rooms, not the paperwork, not the way time seems to move slower when you're desperate for answers. My son wasn't diagnosed with autism right away. There was no clear moments where someone sat me down and said, this is what it is. First, they told me it was a speech impairment. So I learned into speech therapy. I practiced words with him. I celebrated every small sound, every syllable, every tiny victory. Then they said it was bipolar. And that word hit me hard. It felt heavy, permanent, scary. Then it was Asperger's. Another label, another explanation. That kind of made sense. It made a little bit of sense, but not completely. And with every new diagnosis came another prescription, another pill, another dosage, changes. Another, let's see how he does on this. Medication after medication. Some made him too quiet. Some made him cry for no reason. Some changed his sleep. Some changed his personality. It felt like every doctor had a different answer, different opinions, different charts, different theories. And every answer came with more fear because none of them felt final. None of them felt certain. And none of them came with a guarantee that my child will be okay. As a mother, you sit there nodding, listening, taking notes while your heart is breaking silently. You smile, you say, thank you, doctor. And inside you're screaming, what's wrong with my kid? But that question hurts the most. The one that keeps you up at night. The one you're afraid to say out loud. What did I do wrong? Did I miss something early on? Did I wait too long? Did I push too hard or not hard enough? Did I trust the wrong people? You start doubting every decision you ever made as a mother. You replay every moment, every pregnancy craving, every fever, every choice. Because when no one gives you clear answers, you turn the blame inward and you carry it alone. I'm Latina, and if you are Latina, you already understand what I'm about to say. We grew up with faith, stories, beliefs, and a lot of things that don't always get questioned. We thought that everything happens for a reason, that God sees all, that a mother's action matters deeply, sometimes more than anyone else's. So when my son started changing because of medication, the mood swings, the crying that came out of nowhere, the moments where he looked like different child, and then suddenly the calm. My mom didn't go to science first. It didn't go to doctors. It didn't go to side effects. The very first thought that crossed my mind, and this is hard to admit, was something I almost felt ashamed to even think. I thought, is my son possessed? And then the thoughts keep coming, one after another, faster than I could stop them. Is it me? Did I do something wrong while I was pregnant? Did I eat something I shouldn't have? Did I think something I wasn't supposed to think? Did I fail him because he even had a chance? Then the deepest one of all, is this God punishing me? I carried those thoughts quietly. I didn't say them out loud. I didn't tell anyone how scared I really was. I smiled in public and cried in private. And even though my son has a father, I never blame him. Not once. Every ounce of guilt landed on me. Every what if, every maybe, every unanswered prayer. I blame myself for years because that's what we do. We're mothers, we're Latinas, and we're taught that somehow everything is our fault. One of the hardest decisions you ever make as an autistic mom is deciding whether or not to medicate your child. It's not a simple choice. It's not a black and white. And it's definitely not something you decide without losing sleep. I didn't want it to. I didn't want my son to be slow. I didn't want him to feel foggy or disconnected. I didn't want him to live in another world while I stood outside, hoping he could still hear me. I didn't want his laugh to change. I didn't want his light to dim. I didn't want to look at my child and wondered if the medication took something away that I couldn't never get back. And deep down, I didn't want to feel like I failed him. Because once medications enters that picture, the guilt gets louder. You start asking yourself questions no one can answer for you. And I'm doing this for him, or because I'm exhausted. Am I helping him, or just trying to make life easier for everyone else? Will he tempt me one day, or resent me? Every pill feels heavy in your hand. Every dosage change feels like a gamble. You watch closely, too closely, searching his face for signs that he's still him. But sometimes love doesn't look like protection. Sometimes love doesn't look like holding on. Sometimes love means making decisions that break your heart because you're choosing what might help them survive in a world that isn't built for them. And nobody prepares you for that. Nobody prepares you for the judgment from doctors, from family, from strangers who think they know better. Nobody prepares you for the quiet moments when you sit alone wondering if you make the right choice, praying you didn't make the wrong one. Being an autistic mom means carrying impossible choices with no instructions manual. Just instincts, just faith, just love. And somehow you keep going. I had another son, neurotypical. And for a long time, I didn't realize how different that made his experience because all of my attention was on my autistic son. Every day was about appointments, therapies, phone calls, paperwork, meeting with doctors, schools, social workers. I was constantly in crisis mode, always putting out fires, always reacting, always trying to hold everything together. And somewhere in all of that, I didn't see it. I didn't realize that my youngest was slowly learning how to stay quiet, how to not ask for too much, how to take up less space. Not because I didn't love him, not because I didn't care, just because survival takes all your energy. When you're raising a child with autism, your nervous system never rests. You always alert, always anticipating the next meltdown, the next call, the next emergency. There's no off switch. Then the day came when the state took my autistic son and placed him in a special school. And certainly, it was just me and my youngest. The house was quieter, too quiet. That's when I realized my mistake. Not because I was a bad mother, but because I was a stretched one. I started noticing things I had missed. His emotions, his questions, his need to be seen, not just supervised. I saw how much he had adapted to my chaos, how much he had learned to be easy so I could survive. And that realization broke me in different ways. Nobody gives you a manual for parenting. You learn as you go. You make mistakes. You adjust. Now imagine parenting a child with autism. It's like being handed two manuals written in two different languages and being told to read them at the same time while the whole house is on fire. You're translating, you're guessing, you're hoping you don't mess it up. And all you can do is love them both the best way you know how. Even when you realize too late where you fell short. Let's talk about crisis. Not the kind people imagine, not a bad day, not a tantrum, a real crisis. The screaming that doesn't stop, the kind that comes from somewhere deep, terrified. The crying that turns into gasping for air, the head banging against walls, floors, anything nearby. The strength they certainly have, the strength that doesn't match their size. You don't recognize your own child in those moments. And that's what scares you the most. You try to hold them, not to control, but to comfort. You try to keep them safe from themselves. You try to protect their heads, their hands, their body. You try not to get hurt because you still have to be strong, because someone has to. Your heart is racing. Your hands are shaking. You're calculating everything at once. What can break? What can hurt them? How long has this been going on? There comes the moment you never want to face, calling the crisis unit. Your fingers hovers over the phone. You hesitate. You pray will stop on its own. You promise God everything. Just make it stop. But it doesn't. And when they arrive, your world collapses into a single room. Strangers into your own home. They speak calmly while your heart is screaming. They position themselves around your child. You watch them restrain your baby, your child. The same child you once held as a newborn. Everything inside you wants to scream, stop! To grab your child and run. To undo the call you just made. But you don't. Because you know they have to help. Because you're out of options. Because loving your child sometimes means choosing the things that hurts you the most. And while all of this is happening, your other child is watching from the other doorway, from the couch, from behind, scared eyes that will remember this forever. They're watching their siblings struggle. They're watching strangers take control. They're watching you try not to fall apart. And that's when you break, quietly, invisibly. You keep your voice steady. You answer questions. You sign papers. But inside, something cracks. Because you're not just managing a crisis. You're carrying guilt, fear, helplessness. You're holding two children's pain in one body. And nobody prepares you for that either. And don't think that everything is always the right way. Yes, bad things can happen as well. A lot of things can go wrong. One phone call for help might be the end of all of it. I was pretty much raising my kids alone. No one to take over when I was breaking down. No one to share the weight of the decision of the fear. And outsiders always had opinions. They looked in from the outside and thought they understood. They spoke without knowing the nights I cried in silence, without knowing how many times I questioned myself. This is your fault. You did this. Those words cut deeper than people realize, because when you're already blaming yourself, you don't need anyone else to add to it. I went through depression, the kind that makes you getting out of bed feel impossible, the kind where smiling feels like work, the kind where you feel invisible even in the crowded room. But even in my darkest moment, I knew one thing. If I'm not okay, my kids aren't okay. They needed me present. They needed me breathing. They needed me standing, even when I felt like collapsing. So I fought. I fought through the exhaustion. I fought through the guilt. I fought through the voices inside and out, telling me I wasn't enough. Some days fighting looked like therapy. Some days it looked like prayers. Some days it looked like simply choosing to stay. I didn't fight because I was strong. I fought because they needed me to be. And while all of this was happening, I was fighting my own battle. I was dealing with pseudotumor cerebri, constant pressure in my head, migraines that felt unbeatable, blurred vision, dizziness, pain that never really left, 4 brain surgeries, 4 times being up and up, 4 times being told to rest, to recover, to heal, and I never truly did. There was no real recovery, no time to slow down, no space to listen to my body. I went to the hospital, I got the meds, I did what I had to do. Then I went back home because life didn't pause for me, because my son still needed me, because nobody knew how to handle him but me. Not the doctors, not the schools, not the system. So I pushed through. I pushed through pain I shouldn't have ignored. I minimized symptoms I should have taken seriously. I convinced myself I could handle it because I had no other choice. I carried my children while my own body was breaking. And slowly, quietly, that almost destroyed me. Not all at once, but piece by piece, in ways no one else could see. When my son was diagnosed, I made a decision. I studied psychology. Not because I wanted a degree, not because I wanted a title, but because I needed to understand his brain and mine. I needed to know why he reacted the way he did. why certain words hurt more than others, why emotions came out sideways instead of spoken. The more I learned, the more I realized how much of this journey was about me. Yeah, it was about me too. I learned patience, real patience. Not the kind where you smile and count to 10, but the kind where you slow your body down before your mind reacts. I learned to pause, to breathe, to think before I spoke. Because once words leave your mouth, you can't take them back. I learned how powerful words are, how they can calm or escalate, how they can build safely or create fear. And that matters even more with kids who already struggle to understand emotions. Kids who feel everything deeply but don't always know how to explain it. Kids who are trying to make sense of the world that feels loud and overwhelming. I learned that communication isn't just about talking. It's about tone, timing, intention. And that understanding changed the way I parented and the way I saw myself. Have you ever watched your child sleep and ask God, why? Why my kid? Why this struggle? Why this path that feels so heavy? And then, almost immediately, why not me? Why didn't I get to carry the pain instead? It's a question that keeps you awake at night. A question that echoes in your chest during the quiet moments. A question that makes you feel small, lost, unprepared. Stop asking that question. Because the truth is, God didn't give you this child by mistake. He gave you this child because you're special. Because you were made for this in ways no one else could ever be. Because that child could not have a better mother. Not one with more patience. Not one with more understanding. Not one who loves them more fiercely, more completely, or more unconditionally. Even in the hardest moments, the meltdown, the tears, the nights when you feel broken, you are exactly what your child needs. You are enough, more than enough. And this child, this beautiful, complicated, wonderful child, was sent to you for a reason. I wouldn't change my son for anything. He's my gentle giant, the one who sees the world in his own way, who feels everything deeply and teaches me lessons I never knew I needed. He taught me unconditional love, love that doesn't depend on behavior, success, or perfection, love that simply is. He taught me patience, patience in the small moments, the loud moments, and the moments when I thought I couldn't breathe anymore. He taught me understanding that life isn't the same for everyone, and that everyone's mind works differently, beautifully, uniquely, sometimes painfully. Motherhood isn't just one size fits all. There is no manual, no perfect example, no universal guide. Every child needs a different kind of love. And every child teaches you how to trust yourself, to see the world through the new eyes, and to grow in ways you never imagined. And my son, he's the reason I keep learning, the reason I keep fighting, the reason my heart has room for more love than I ever thought possible. My kids are 25 and 27 now. And even at this age, they still call mom for everything, for advice, for comfort, for a voice that reminds them that they are safe, they are loved, and they are understood. They know I'm here, and that fills me with pride in a way that words can barely capture. To every mother listening right now, you're not weak. You're not failing. You're not alone. You're doing the best you can. And sometimes that means getting through the day when it feels impossible. Sometimes that means crying quietly after everyone goes to bed. Sometimes that means choosing love over frustration again and again. And that is enough. Keep pushing. Keep loving. Keep showing up. Even when the world doesn't notice. Even when your own body and heart are exhausted. You got this. And if you ever feel like you can't do it alone, there's help. Autism Speak, local autism, support groups, therapy for parents, siblings, crisis lines in your area. Reaching out doesn't make you weak. It makes you strong. It shows your children what courage and resilience look like. You're not alone. You are enough and you are love. The love you give every day is changing the world one moment at a time. Thank you for listening. Thank you for being here with me today. My name is Salty Candy. This is Salty Candy's podcast, and these are my miles to heal. Please, if this episode touched you, makes you understand things that you haven't thought about, don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe, because another mother might need this today.